iOS 17 has been out for about 3 months now as far as the developer slash public beta goes. And in fact, if you want to download it, it's actually available for download in beta right now. I don't know if I'd recommend that. It's not the most reliable thing in the world yet, but it's getting pretty good. It comes out officially next week and will be available for your downloading pleasure at that point. iOS 17's tagline should be, "It's the little things." So let's dive into this. Welcome back to the Infinite. Okay, there is a lot to cover about iOS 17. I'm mostly going to focus on literally iOS 17 today, so we're not talking about iPadOS 17, even though there's some awesome new things in iPadOS 17, nor are we talking about macOS Sonoma, which also has a ton of really awesome new features like profiles on Safari that I'm really excited for, but I'll only be talking about iOS 17, so only things that affect new iPhones. First of all, let's talk about Standby. Standby is one of my favorite features of iOS 17. It works best if you have an iPhone 14 Pro or later, because then your screen will stay on all day and basically you can display any of these widget combinations that you choose. Now, it's not super customizable, so I hope that that's something that iOS 18 or a future iOS looks to improve upon. Let's hope for iOS 18. But the formats that ship with it look really good, so I don't really have many complaints about that. Whenever your phone is charging in landscape mode, it'll display this standby mode, and it is awesome. I'll have it on my nightstand at nights. I have it while I'm working throughout the day just to take a quick glance at the weather and at the time or at my calendar. It's a great new feature, and like I said, probably my favorite new feature of iOS 17, so definitely something to get excited for. If you don't already, I would recommend getting a MagSafe charging dock where you can mount up your iPhone and have it sideways, because it's been an awesome feature to have throughout the day. Now, if you don't have an iPhone 14 Pro or above, the downside of this feature is that your iPhone will not stay on all the time, which is really too bad because the iPhone 12 Pro and above had the OLED display, which gives you those really deep blacks and should let you have a screen on all the time, but always on display wasn't released on iPhone until 14 Pro and above. But don't get ahead of yourself and go order an iPhone 14 Pro right now, because remember, the iPhone 15 Pro also comes out at next week's event, so do not buy a 14 right now. Okay, the next feature is we have an interesting new UI on messages. This was my most viral tweet of all time, so I'm really glad that Apple introduced this UI so that I could get some visibility on Twitter. But it is an interesting UI. I actually think that it looks a lot better now. They've made some improvements since I made that tweet, which I guess is a post now on X. I've actually grown to like it a lot as a new feature on messages. It's a great way to organize some of the iMessage apps that are on there. Next up, we have check-in in iMessage. Now, this is a great feature where you can tell a friend that you're going somewhere and they will be able to see when you've arrived safely. Super excited for this feature, especially for people that are often walking places and coming home after work or things like that. This is going to be a great safety feature. I love it when Apple does stuff like this. Now, the other thing like this that I love that Apple is doing is these sensitive content warnings. So if you have children and you don't want them receiving sensitive messages, you can actually turn on this setting that'll blur those images and also let you know as a parent and make sure that they're receiving wholesome content on their iPhones rather than things that you would not want them to see. Again, great new feature, a lot like the check-in. Super excited for this one. Finally, with iMessage, there's just improved iMessage search, which is something that they've been adding a lot of recently, and it's a very welcome change. If you remember even just a few years ago with iOS 14, for example, iMessage search was pretty miserable. You couldn't really search for people by name. You had to search for very specific words within messages, and sometimes they wouldn't even come up at all. So the iMessage search is improved again in iOS 17, and something to really be excited for. Also in iMessage, you get to see audio transcriptions of audio messages that people send you, which is great for those people that send long audio messages and I don't want to take 3 minutes of my day to listen to their message. Really excited for this feature. I'm not trying to call anybody out right now, but I'm really excited for this feature. Let's hop over to FaceTime, something that I wanted Apple to do ever since the very first iteration of FaceTime, which I believe was in iOS 4, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe it was the iPod Touch 4. Wow, I was right. Okay, iOS 4 on June 7th, 2010, Apple released FaceTime, and one of the great features that me and all my friends wanted on FaceTime was the ability to leave a message. If your friend doesn't pick up, you can leave a video message. Finally, in iOS 17, 13 iOSs later, we have FaceTime messages. So, exactly that. You can leave a video message, they can refer back to it at a later time, and call you back if they want to. Also with FaceTime, we now have FaceTime on the Apple TV, which is really awesome, and it kind of reminds me of the Jetsons. Next up, we have interactive widgets, which is great. This was a top complaint of widgets when they first came out on iOS, was that you could only have one button on most of the widgets unless they were some of the bigger ones. Now the widgets are a lot more interactive, and also it doesn't always just take you into the app to perform an action. You can actually play with the widgets right on the home screen. So with the music widget, for example, you can hit play, it'll start playing a song. It doesn't take you into the music app. Great addition to widgets, something I'm really excited for. Now this one has been really big, which is this new AirDrop contact sharing feature. I admit the animation is amazing. I personally don't know when I'm gonna use this. It's kind of too bad that we're not gonna see this more often, honestly. But the other side of the coin of this is that AirDrop in general is improved, so you can kind of bump your phones, bump
for Android. Here's how it works.
Yeah, this used to be a really big thing on Android, and then when Apple released AirDrop, they said,
no need to wander around the room bumping your phone with others.
But hey, still cool. Honestly, no problem with this. I really think it's a cool feature. Okay, one of the biggest ones that actually hasn't even come out yet is this new journal app that Apple's releasing. This is something that I wanted to build into an app personally a long time ago, but I just don't have the kind of vertical integration that Apple has with all of their apps. Basically, it's going to store your workouts, your photos, all of your data from a certain day into kind of a journal entry. And that's something that you can refer back to at any time and see stats from that day and what you did on that day. It should be really cool. I'm really excited for it. The great thing is that any third-party developer can integrate with this journal API. So all of your favorite apps hopefully will integrate with it, and you can even get data from those apps in the journal app. Really cool feature. This should be coming out later this year for everybody. Now, hopping over to the Apple Music app. Again, a feature that people have been asking for a long time that I'm really excited about finally being here is shared playlists. So you can add a bunch of friends to a playlist, you can all add your own music, and then you can obviously play it whenever you want. So if you're going on a road trip, get a bunch of friends to add music to a playlist and listen to everybody's songs. This kind of goes along with this new CarPlay sharing where people can add music into the queue, but that's only when you're in the car. Shared playlists is for any time. Okay, last two things. Adaptive audio on AirPods. This is a great feature that lets you use noise cancellation, but still get the most important information coming in as if it were through transparency mode. So somebody talking to you, for example, or if there's an important sound in the environment like a doorbell, for instance. Everything else will be noise canceled out. It's not available on most AirPods, unfortunately. Even the AirPods Max, which are nearly $600, don't have this new adaptive transparency mode. Chances are, I hate to say it, it's probably not compatible with your AirPods, so you'll have to upgrade, and it'll likely be a feature that you enjoy in the next few years once you upgrade your current pair of AirPods. Okay, and last of all, we have a change in how Siri works, and it's a change that I actually don't like at all. Now, instead of saying, "Hey Siri," you just need to say Siri. Yeah.
Is there something else I can help with?
Yeah, and this is exactly what I don't like about it, is I used to refer to Siri all the time as just Siri. I'll tell people saying literally, quote, "Siri, turn on the lights," as an example, but I don't say the "hey" because I don't want to trigger it. Well, now that triggers it as well. So you can never refer to Siri without triggering it. And my HomePod is going crazy right now, just trying to listen and trying to figure out what's going on. I hate to say it, but I think Siri's gotten worse in iOS 17. Let's hope that it's just me, but let's hope. And then, like I said, there's a bunch of other things that have been added in iOS 17, a bunch of little tweaks, such as this stabilizer that you now have on the camera app, live voicemail, keyboard autocomplete, visual lookup. Lots of little things and things that I haven't even mentioned on macOS and iPadOS yet. So big update, and this comes out with the Apple event next Tuesday. Something really to look forward to. All right, so that's everything I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on iOS 17. Peace.